Okay, so ever since I did a reaction to a G1 video, I've gotten request after request after request to take a proper look at G1 My Little Pony and all its best episodes, because everyone seems dead sure I'll think they're better. Okay. My watch! That probably won't take much. But hey, the sooner we do this, the sooner we can leave, so from a critic first and a fan second...
Not so fast, Mr. Opinion.
Hey, I'm the viewer. It's been a while.
And you're lucky I caught you before you could kick people's fond memories to the curb. I bet you've already made up your mind about this show, haven't you?
Yeah, so?
Well, what about all the people who consider this one of their favorite shows?
Wow, out of all the shows from the 80s? When the cartoons were as cheap and manufactured as the toy lines that inspired them?
Oh yeah, we've come so far since then. Don't you just love that Powerpuff Girls reboot?
Look, I'd rather just get to the review already. If you have to hang around, try not to slow down the serious criticism.
I'd like to see you try and keep up with me. Tell me, where's your fedora?
Hey, I'm the guy who has to wear a swag jacket everywhere I go just to let people know how awesome I am.
Oh, that's what you think you're doing with that thing. Oh, adorable.
Okay, you're gonna pay for that one.
Guys! Are you gonna review the episode or not?
What the heck are you?
Don't worry, it's okay. That's just Snazzy's chapeau. He's with me. What's up, Snazzy? Look, there's a simple solution here. You want to give this show a fair shake and see what people liked about it, right? Exactly. And you want to tear it limb from limb, right?
Hey, I'm a critic first and foremost. I'm here to give it exactly as much credit as it deserves. No more and no less.
Yeah, that's what I just said. So how about I stick around and play mediator? You can both try to convince me that your point of view is the correct one. That works just fine for me. What do you think, second?
Seriously, what are you? Some kind of Muppet dinosaur?
Alright, then it's settled. We'll do it that way. Cue the intro music!
So in 1981, Hasbro created a toy line called My Pretty Pony. It was a success, so they followed it up with My Pretty Pony and Beautiful Baby. And then My Pretty Pony and Beautiful Baby, Blowing Bubbles, Biking Backwards, Bump Black Bugs, Banana Boxes, and Billy Bunny's Bread Basket.
Will you focus?
Yeah. So by 1984, it had become the classic G1 My Little Pony figurines, and Hasbro decided to try their hand at expanding it into a TV show.
And the franchise kicked off with a full-fledged fantasy animated special, starring Broadway star Sandy Duncan and TV star Tony Randall in the voice cast. This is Rescue at Midnight Castle, quite possibly the best remembered of all the G1 pony stories. Oh, this is going to be a long one.
Our episode begins, to the surprise of absolutely no one, with unrepentant saccharine sweetness, as a bunch of ponies frolic playfully in the meadows to the most inoffensive music ever composed. Tell me again why you wanted to defend this?
Because this happens.
It's the Stratodons!
Seize them! You are all doomed!
Holy tonal whiplash, did we skip a scene?
What, we're getting dark apocalyptic imagery and you're still not satisfied? It's not like you wanted to see more of the ponies playing.
Well, no, but it's not like this redeems it either. I mean, why not just start with the monkey back guy if you were gonna cut the ponies off before anything really happened anyway? That's like, once upon a time there were magical ponies, and their names were Something, Glitter, and, well, we'll let you know when the one voiced by Sandy Duncan shows up. They played in the valley doing cute, loving, giggly things, and look, we've only got 20 minutes here. Bad guys!
Firefly! No! Where are you going? To get help! Firefly!
Firefly, you say? Oh, please, can we make the reference? Please, 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 please? I don't see why not. Second?
So yeah, this is Firefly, our main pony for the special who they got Sandy Duncan to voice, based on her resume of playing fantasy daredevils who can fly, I guess, and she almost has what's known in layman's terms as a personality. The one that would go on to inspire Rainbow Dash, in fact.
Before we continue her story, though, we should really check in on our would-be kidnapper Scorpion and figure out what his deal is. He checks in with Spike, this one voiced by Charles Adler, aka Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons, as well as his boss T-Rex, who is basically a cartoon version of Blofeld with a bag in his lap instead of a cat.
Have you forgotten something, Scorpion?
Seriously, the only thing missing from this guy's repertoire is a British accent. Listen to him.
2 ponies, you say? Only 2?
Yes, master.
But I need 4 ponies for my chariot. Not 2, not 3, 4.
Yeah, but he tried to get him, Master Honest. I mean, honestly and truly tried him.
Silence! You will prepare another raid, Scorpion. Now!
Yeah, he's kind of a boss. I mean, he's tormenting ponies just because he needs something to pull his carriage. That's pretty heartless. So back to the story.
Oh, right. Plot. Yeah, that. So Firefly crashes in a well owned by a girl named Megan, who happens to be a pony lover.
And if you thought the beginning was rushed, wait till you get a load of this. The whole sequence includes Megan and Firefly meeting face to face, Megan being shocked at finding a talking pony with wings, the mandatory questions and introductions, Firefly deciding that Megan is the perfect one to save the ponies, Megan being reluctant at first because of personal insecurity, and Firefly insisting she can totally do it, eventually convincing her to hop on and fly away with her, and all of it happens in 67 seconds. Never mind failing to make sense, some of it just sounds like they're rambling over each other.
Help my friends. They need you.
Me? What can I do?
You're strong.
No, I'm not.
You can fight.
No, I can't.
And you can fly.
Then they dedicate 80 seconds to a song about Megan and Firefly just going back and forth on whether Megan's going to be the greatest thing since Twilight Sparkle ranted about friendship and got wings for it.
Now wait a minute, let's give credit where credit is due here. This is an important lesson for little girls. They need to learn to be confident in who they are and not feel insecure about what society expects them to be. Besides, back in the 80s, women being bold and heroic was still a relatively new idea. Wonder Woman was the exception, not the rule. This could be very important for the show's target audience. He's got you there.
Megan, you're a dream come true. That, my friends, all think so too. You're the answer to our every prayer.
In that case, they're laying it on pretty thick, don't you think?
And he's got you there. Fine. It's not a script worthy of the Globe Theater, I'll admit that. But it's still something.
Oh, come on, even the biggest haters of how Harry Potter's the chosen one just because would at least admit that nobody just said, "Hey, Harry Potter, I'm a magical wizard, and I happen to know that you're destined to be the greatest wizard who ever lived. I'm drafting you into our ranks so you can go kill the most evil dark wizard of all time. So here, have a magic wand, and let's go get him. I'd sing you a song, but we rushed this so fast that I'm already not played by Richard Harris anymore. But since we have time now, I think I'll try anyway."
Anyway, Firefly brings Megan back to introduce her to all the other ponies.
Upon which the dragon things return and effortlessly take the other 2 ponies that T-Rex needs right in front of them, along with Megan herself. 2 of the ponies attempt to rescue her, but it goes so poorly that the bad guy has to save her.
But instead of cowering and taking his advice to run away, she gets mad and stands up to him. And even while she's still espousing that she's not brave or heroic, she's rallying everyone into a battle frenzy so they can go and rescue their friends. So she actually is displaying the qualities that were assigned to her earlier.
Whatever, can we just get back to T-Rex?
Silence! That's better.
You won't hurt Ember.
She is too small to pull my chariot of midnight, but you 3 will do. For now.
So T-Rex steps out of the shadows to reveal that he is basically Satan. Sheesh, how did the concerned parents of America miss that? Now that we know T-Rex is the demon from the cover of Dio's Holy Diver, he can kick things into awesomeness overload. He forces the 4th pony that he deems too small to watch while he mutates her 3 friends into horribly warped dragon monsters. And he tells Scorpion that if he doesn't get him a 4th pony by midnight...
A head will roll. His...
Meanwhile, our heroes are crossing a bridge and Applejack...
Feel very safe.
Oh dear lord, that's Applejack? Really? Anyway, Proto-Applejack falls off the bridge, and Megan doesn't even hesitate to jump in to rescue her. Okay, second, between T-Rex Menace and the characters in a real life or death situation, you have to admit that things are picking up now.
Okay, I guess it is at least trying to carry itself like a legitimate fantasy adventure.
Shooby-doo, shoop-shoopy-doo. Call upon the sea ponies when you're in distress. Helpful as can be, ponies simply signal SOS. If you find your cast adrift and haven't got it all, count upon the sea ponies, they'll see you to show. Shooby-doo, shoop-shoopy-doo. Are you sinking fast? Had some nasty shocks. Feeling like all hope is gone and washed up on the rocks. Washed up on the rocks. Shooby-doo, shoop-shoopy-doo. Call upon the sea
Snazzy?
ponies when you're
Nope,
in distress.
you're on your own with this one.
Helpful as can be, ponies simply signal SOS. If your rider rides upon the seaweed secret, count upon the sea ponies, they'll see you. Yeah, sea ponies, simply signal SOS. Simply signal SOS. Sea ponies, simply signal SOS. Signal SOS. Oh, yes.
Okay. If I was about to say anything nice before that started, forget it.
Okay, let's just forget that bit of weirdness and go to see Moochick, who may have the magic they need to win the day.
Then why didn't they go to him in the first place instead of some random girl?
Shut up! When he gets there, he tells them that T-Rex's plan is to use the ponies to pull his chariot and bring about everlasting night.
Well, doesn't that sound familiar?
The only way to stop him is to steal his Rainbow of Darkness, which is his ultimate weapon. So to that end, Moochick gives them a Rainbow of Light.
But it's so small.
Well, it's better than nothing.
And I would just like to add that Moochick is a riot and a half to watch. I mean, yeah, the scene is full of padding, but it's entertaining padding. And unlike that weirdness with the sea ponies, this is deliberately lighthearted and silly. No kidding now, he should show up in Friendship is Magic.
Thank you for all you've done.
No time for thanks, no time for thanks, no time for thanks.
After all, we've got an episode to rush. So we get the payoff to the sea ponies a whole 2 scenes after they showed up when the gang has to cross T-Rex moat. I mean, geez, Stephen Magnet's scene wasn't really my favorite part of Friendship is Magic Part 2, but wow, was that an improvement over this. Anyway, they enter the castle, and then everything starts happening at once. T-Rex, who I honestly have to say loses an edge when he stops appearing in shadow, refuses to relent on his threat to kill Spike, even though it's almost midnight and Scorpan's coming up short. This causes Scorpan to rebel just a couple seconds before the guards report the perfectly good ponies that just entered the castle, meaning yes, this entire half-baked attempt to save the others is the only reason T-Rex's plan is able to succeed. And eat your heart out those who say Applejack doesn't have a bad side. Heck, they all would have ended up as prisoners game over if Scorpan didn't turn out to be a surprisingly badass rebel for a guy who spent the whole story up to now as a sniveling right-hand man. But hey, since they're out and T-Rex is in the middle of putting his totally successful plan into action, might as well try to fight him.
But on a more optimistic note, this is where the band really comes together. After Scorpan tries and fails to knock the Rainbow of Darkness from T-Rex's hands, Megan and Firefly succeed by using the same move that failed earlier. Then it lands on the ground, the other ponies play keep away with it from T-Rex guards for a while, then they finally get it back to Firefly so she can whisk it away to their dream castle.
Too bad it amounts to absolutely nothing when T-Rex gets it right back.
The day is over, little ponies. The power is mine!
It most certainly is not. You tell him, Captain Planet.
The power is yours!
Traitor.
But hey, how about instead we just have the team fight Rainbow versus Rainbow and win for no reason whatsoever?
A rainbow! It's gone! We're finished! The rainbow's fighting back!
Yes, truly it was so essential to bring Megan on this journey, for she, and the ponies for that matter, have done so well to walk Moochick's Rainbow over to T-Rex's castle for him, as only they could.
Now hold on a minute, there is something to this idea about how it only takes a little light to overcome the darkness. It's a central theme in a lot of religions and philosophies.
And sci-fi stories, and fantasy stories, and dime store movies about princesses and goblins, and historical dramas set in World War II, and pretty much every good versus evil story ever written if you think about it.
You just can't ever be satisfied with what you get, can you?
Guys! Will you wrap it up already? You're almost done!
So Tyrek is defeated and everything is restored to the way it was, including Scorpan, who turns out to have been a prince all along.
Hey, why not? Okay, so Scorpan turns back into a prince, and the evil dragons turn back into ponies, while Spike, it turns out, has always been a baby dragon, but that's okay because he's cute. So they all live ever after. And that's all she wrote.
Actually, this sudden reveal is a surprisingly clever subversion of what we normally see in these kinds of stories.
Subversion? I don't know. I mean, of all the ways I might describe this cartoon, including the plot twist, subversive isn't really the first word I'd use. Mishandled, maybe, or out of the blue, perhaps.
It all comes down to context and subtext. The 80s was a decade where high fantasy dominated the pop culture landscape. Fantasy novels were selling like crazy, fantasy movies were big at the box office, popular rock bands were incorporating fantasy lyrics into their songs, and of course, fantasy games of the video and role-playing variety were taking the world by storm. But at the time, it was still very much a man's world. Women were still usually relegated to the role of damsel in distress, and the few who tried to break that mold tended not only to be overly sexualized, but by the finale were either reduced to damsel status or died in battle. Plus, a male in the role of needing rescued was usually portrayed as weak, pathetic, and, dare I say, effeminate. But Rescue at Midnight Castle manages to reverse all of that without compromising Scorpan's masculinity or Megan's femininity. Scorpan is a masculine entity. He's submitting to Tyrek in order to protect Spike, because Spike clearly means something to him. He's not a weakling and he's not a coward, he's just trapped. And he's saved by Megan, who is arguably the ultimate every-girl. She isn't too girly or too tomboyish, and is the unquestioned hero of the story. Even if we limit our comparison to just the best fantasy films of the 80s, let's say Conan the Barbarian, The Princess Bride, Excalibur, Beastmaster, Highlander, and 2/3 of the Star Wars trilogy, even then, Rescue at Midnight Castle would be the only one on that list that doesn't fall into the same traps. Sure, the subversion is sudden, I'll admit that, but sometimes you need to pull the rug out from under your audience in order to get the point across. That way someone else can follow up on it, maybe even do it better, which we've seen happening more and more recently. So I guess what I'm saying is, Rescue at Midnight Castle was progressive for the time. Even though it does have a lot of flaws in the storytelling department, there's still a lot of rich content in there that I feel deserves to be recognized. Yes, Friendship is Magic would ultimately do all of it better, but this is still the foundation. And I guess I respect it for that.
Well, I guess it might deserve more respect than the way these earlier generations are usually stereotyped, if nothing else because it's a little better. Sort of. But that doesn't mean it's good. It does try to hit the notes of a full-blooded fantasy adventure, like I said, but it's so rushed that it comes across more like a slapdash imitation from a fanfic writer with a sugar high. Even considering that most of the plot points do technically have a setup and a payoff, they overstep each other so much in such a cramped runtime that most of them don't even seem to matter by the end. The only thing that wouldn't have worked out all the same if some totally unspectacular protagonist had just walked the Rainbow of Light to Tyrek's castle and set it loose right then, is Megan coming into her own. And since you could pretty much run the whole story without her, that's a small consolation. There are moments where it's visually effective, but a couple more that are just so ridiculous and pandering it's hard to stay invested even on that level. Not all of the characters are for nothing, and there's enough potential so that you might even want to be charmed by it, but overall, it's a sketchbook attempt that needs refinement, and a lot more room to breathe.
Well, I guess that's it then. What do you say, Snazzy? Who are you siding with? Me, or the guy who's obviously wrong?
Hey, no leading the witness.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not great. It's full of pacing issues and it flip-flops on the tone like a politician fielding hard questions. But I do see a lot of the potential that G4 would eventually realize with its positive depictions of femininity and embracing of high fantasy. Really, I don't think this one episode is enough to say whether or not there's any merit to this show. It's just the setup, after all. Did you get any other suggestions for episodes to review?
Technically.
Okay, great. We'll watch as many as we have to in order to get this settled. You ready for a second round, second opinion?
Oh joy. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to both of us. If you didn't, well, don't look here, I blame OmniViewer. Anyway, if you'd like to watch more videos, click either of the links on the right, and I'll see you next time. Yes, truly it was so essential to bring Megan on this journey. Damn it, Batman.